From a young age, I realized I was seen as a disappointment. I could sense it without anyone saying a word. My mother's eyes, my father's sighs, and the way they treated me differently from my younger sister spoke volumes. I'm Rachel, the firstborn, the child destined to be a boy. The words were never spoken, yet I could always sense the unspoken disappointment lingering in the air. Text. They anticipated a different outcome on the day I was born. 3 years later, my mother welcomed my sister Lily into the world, and I caught wind of something I was never supposed to hear. Next time, it could be a boy. My mother's voice resonates in my mind. A simple comment, but it lingered in my mind all through my childhood. But that next time, it never arrived. Complications from Lily's birth left my mother unable to have more children, shattering their dream of having a son forever. Rather than facing the truth, they pinned all their hopes on Lily. I couldn't tell if their affection for her was genuine, or if she was just their final opportunity to embrace a child without the weight of disappointment. Lily quickly caught on to this. She mastered the art of pouting, perfected her timing for whining, and flashed a dazzling smile whenever our parents showered her with praise. In an instant, everything I once held dear was cast aside. The love, the attention, and all those little things a child deserves to receive naturally. I was always cared for and never left behind. I had plenty of clothes, ample food, and I went to a great school. Yet warmth was consistently hard to come by. If Lily was the sun, radiating warmth and light in our home, then I was just a shadow, lingering in her glow. I lacked her big, sparkling eyes, her soft, sweet voice, and that innocence that could melt the hearts of adults. I was Rachel, the quiet and independent eldest daughter who often went unnoticed. As time went on, I discovered how to stand strong on my own, no longer relying on others for protection. As a child, I aimed to impress my parents, believing that if I studied hard and behaved well, their pride in me would follow. Yet, the recognition I craved never arrived. My academic achievements barely got a glance, while one of Lily's doodles could light up my mother's face with joy for a whole day. One evening at dinner when I was 17, I made an announcement. I'm eager to dive into the world of business studies. I was anticipating a reaction of some sort, a touch of pride and a spark of curiosity. Yet, my parents merely exchanged glances. "Are you really sure?" my mother asked, pausing to set her fork down. "The field is really dry. How about exploring options that are a better fit for a girl? How about teaching? How about nursing?" My father quickly nodded in agreement. I gazed at Lily. She flashed a smirk and shrugged it off. I saw their response coming. I could already see the disappointment in my mother's eyes coming. I was familiar with it. The constant struggle of feeling inadequate. That night, I discovered something new. I didn't require their approval. I took charge of my own life without waiting for anyone's approval. If I couldn't find my spot in this family, I'd create my own journey. I set off for the University of Washington to study business, armed with just a suitcase and an unwavering determination to forge ahead without looking back. No farewell party, no warm embrace from my parents. Lily stood there leaning against my bedroom doorframe, arms crossed over her chest, wearing that familiar lazy smile that always caught my attention. "You're going to fail," she said as I grabbed my bag. "And then you'll find yourself back here, just like before." I chose not to respond. I just walked away. College was tough, but it also set me free. I was finally free from living in Lily's shadow and no longer had to see the quiet disappointment in my parents' eyes. In this moment, I was no longer Rachel, the unwanted child. I am Rachel Matthews, a business student ready to take charge of my own life. It was in the university library, surrounded by towering stacks of finance textbooks, that I first crossed paths with Nathan. Text as I reached for a macroeconomics book. I unexpectedly collided with someone standing next to me. The book tumbled from my grasp and hit the floor with a thud. "Apologies." I crouched to grab it, but his hand shot out quicker. "It's fine," he said with a smile as he handed me the book. "Hey, Rachel. Am I right? I remember seeing you in Professor Anderson's class. You're the one who consistently brings up the challenging questions." My face flushed with warmth. I never imagined anyone would actually notice me, much less remember my name. Nathan stepped into my life from that day forward. We hit the books together, tackled lecture debates, and before we knew it, our study sessions evolved into coffee dates and late-night strolls around campus. He was the first to truly see me without the lens of comparisons or expectations. He truly saw me for who I am. When I graduated, Nathan had already landed a job at a prestigious financial consulting firm. He patiently waited for me, and the moment I landed my first job, we jumped at the chance to move in together in a cozy apartment right in downtown Seattle. I was surprised by my parents' potential reaction, but I decided to call and share the news anyway. "Nathan!" My mother's voice suddenly brightened with an unexpected cheerfulness. "Is he your boyfriend? Does he work in finance?" "Great work." I was taken aback by their interest, and even more by what they said next. My father urged, "Bring him home. Let's meet him." I understood the reason. They didn't offer their blessing out of desire. They believed they had finally achieved a son. Nathan was oblivious at first. That weekend when we returned home, my mother embraced him tightly, as if he were her own flesh and blood. My father gave him a friendly pat on the shoulder, eagerly inquiring about his job, his future, and even his marriage plans. I watched it all, my chest tight with an unusual sensation. For the first time, they looked at me with a pride I had never seen before. But with Nathan, a man, they were completely open about it. As we were leaving that night, my mother flashed him a radiant smile. "Nathan, are you coming home for Christmas? How about Thanksgiving as well?" I was right there, yet they completely overlooked me. It's as if Nathan is the one who really counts in this family. I didn't say a word the whole way home, yet deep within, something had broken apart. A year later, we tied the knot in a small, simple ceremony, exactly how I envisioned it. Keep it simple and straightforward. A small garden, surrounded by a few close friends, and there's Nathan standing right in front of me, smiling with love as he shares his vows. I believed I was stepping into a joyful and serene life, but I overlooked one vital detail. My family was always right there by my side. Just 6 months post-wedding, the questions started rolling in. "So, when are you both thinking about starting a family?" It all started during my mother's weekly calls. Suddenly, it was the hot topic at every family dinner. "You know, young couples really shouldn't wait too long," she said as soon as I sat down at the table. "I came across an article stating that the longer you wait, the more challenging it becomes to conceive." "We need to achieve financial stability first," I said, keeping my composure. My father shook his head and placed his glass down firmly. "Rachel, you're making this more complicated than it needs to be. Your mother and I started with nothing when we raised you two, and we made it work just fine. A complete family is what truly matters." Nathan offered a brief, awkward smile, remaining silent. I could tell he was uneasy, yet I really hoped he would stand up for me. What truly took me by surprise wasn't the pressure from my parents. Lily's shift in behavior was noticeable. On a Saturday evening after a long day at work, I got a text from her. "Get back here. I've got some exciting news to share." As I stepped into the living room, I spotted Lily lounging on the couch, her hand confidently placed on her stomach. "I'm pregnant," she announced, her voice brimming with excitement. My mother gasped with joy and hurried to embrace her, while my father's face beamed with pride. "That's fantastic, Lily," he exclaimed. "Exciting news? We're going to have a grandchild." I stood there, completely silent. They were over the moon when I shared the news of my engagement. But before long, their excitement shifted into something entirely different. "But where's the father?" I asked, scanning the surroundings. Lily had never brought up any serious relationship before. My mother waved her hand, brushing it off with a flick of her wrist. "Oh, that's not a big deal. Men may come and go, but what truly matters is that she's bringing a baby into the world. She'll have company. We've got her covered." I got it right away. Lily found herself at the heart of their world once more. In the months that followed, my whole family was completely focused on Lily and the baby on the way. My mother transformed Lily's old room into the perfect nursery, something I had never received before. The day baby Emma arrived, I rushed to the hospital, eager to witness my sister stepping up and embracing her new role. Absolutely not. Lily remained unmistakably Lily. "Could you hold her for a moment?" As soon as I stepped into the hospital room, she asked. I'm completely worn out. I gazed at the baby cradled in her arms. Her eyes were big and round, capturing attention effortlessly. looking up at me with a purity I had never been permitted to experience. In that instant, it hit me. This child will have all the opportunities I missed out on. But the most frustrating part was that Nathan caught on as well. He quickly became fond of Emma. Every weekend during our visits, he was always the first to scoop her up and play with her. I witnessed him smile at Emma like I had never experienced before. My mother picked up on it and seized the opportunity to highlight it. "Nathan truly shines as a father," she remarked, observing him cradle Emma in his arms. "Rachel, it would be a real disappointment if you couldn't give him a baby soon." I tightened my fists beneath the table, holding back my words. I had grown accustomed to being ignored. I never imagined that I could feel like an outsider in my own marriage once again. The pressure to have children grew stronger with each passing day. I initially brushed off my mother's persistent questions, my father's knowing glances, and Lily's playful teasing. Slowly but surely, Nathan started to transform. "Rachel, don't you think it's time we really dive in and start trying?" One evening, during dinner, he asked. I put my fork down, feeling a tightness in my throat. "Do you really think I haven't been serious?" I responded, my voice low yet cutting. He let out a deep sigh. "That's not what I'm trying to say. However, it's been more than a year and—" He didn't complete his thought, but I got it. We were giving it our all. Each month, I meticulously tracked my cycle and explored every possible method. Yet, the outcome never changed. Absolutely nothing. Worry gradually transformed into fear. I felt like something was off with me. I booked an appointment with a gynecologist. Nathan walked alongside me, gripping my hand tightly as we entered the clinic together. The tests took place in complete silence. Get ready for blood work, ultrasounds, and hormone evaluations. Next, the excruciating wait began. The day of the results finally arrived. The doctor gazed at me with a look of understanding. "Rachel, I truly apologize. I missed what came next." The words flew by, barely registering in my mind. Premature ovarian failure. Facing challenges with natural conception. The odds are extremely slim, almost non-existent. I gripped my hands tightly in my lap. This news was bound to change everything. That night, Nathan and I shared a quiet moment at the dinner table. We both left our food untouched. "Let's give IVF a shot," he finally said. Or what? Embrace the journey of adoption. I nodded, but deep down, I realized everything had changed forever. I realized I had to share this soon. During dinner the next weekend, I shared the news with my parents. I struggled to keep my composure, but my heart raced as I pushed the words out. I'm unable to have children. The room was enveloped in silence. My mother set her chopsticks down, crossed her arms, and pressed her lips together in clear disdain. "Go ahead and call yourself useless, then." Her words sliced through me like a sharp blade. "Mom!" I exclaimed, struggling to wrap my head around what I just heard. My father completely ignored me. "Text," he muttered in disappointment, shaking his head at the empty vessel. Lily laughed, playfully bouncing Emma in her arms. "So, you're not really a woman," she said, her smile dripping with pity. "Mom must be feeling pretty let down by you." I looked at Nathan, my eyes pleading for him to speak up and defend me. He sat there, fixated on the table, completely silent. I felt like I was going under, feeling adrift in the family I came from. I just couldn't handle the rest of that dinner. I stood up and walked away, leaving the hushed whispers at the table behind me. That night, I lay in bed with my back to Nathan, my pillow drenched in silent tears. I realized I had lost something important. It's more than just being a mother. Yet, this is my final spot in this family. I once believed that the deepest sorrow I would face in life was the inability to have children. I was mistaken. The deepest hurt wasn't about losing something. It was the shocking realization that those you trusted the most could turn against you. Following that pivotal night, the dynamic between Nathan and me began to shift gradually. He began to hang out more at my parents' place, specifically with Lily and Emma. Initially, I convinced myself it was simply a typical worry. He absolutely adored Emma, cherishing her innocence like a precious gem. He was attempting to fill the void that we couldn't. Then, I spotted the small, yet undeniable changes. He began arriving home later after family dinners, always claiming he was busy helping Lily with something. Lily's messages to his phone started pouring in, always asking, "Nathan, are you free? I need your help with this." He brought up Emma way more than he brought me into our conversations. It was a Friday night when I walked in the door after work, a bag of Chinese takeout in hand. Nathan's top pick. Yet the apartment stood vacant. He was absent. I reached out to him. No response. A heavy unease settled in my chest. I grabbed my phone and immediately dove into social media. I hardly ever checked out Lily's posts. This time, one caught my eye right at the top of my feed. My hands are shaking with excitement. Nathan, Lily, and Emma are all cozied up on the couch in my parents' living room. Nathan found himself in the center, with Emma comfortably nestled against his chest and Lily leaning in a bit too close for comfort. What really made my heart clench was the caption under the photo. A joyful moment shared with my favorite people. Who do I cherish the most? I fixed my gaze on the screen. My hands felt like ice. This can't be happening, it just can't. The truth was staring me right in the face. I leaped into my car, my heart racing so fiercely I felt it could explode. I couldn't care less about their opinions of me being crazy. I was on the hunt for answers. The front door stood wide open, just like before. I swung the door open, catching snippets of conversation drifting from the living room. Nathan, you've always been a part of this family to us. My mother's voice echoed throughout the house. I stood frozen, my feet glued to the floor. You truly deserve a real family, my father emphasized. A woman who can bear your children, who could fault you for making that choice. I took a deep breath and held it tight. Lily spoke, her voice soft yet packed with significance. It's clear that Rachel won't be able to provide that for you. I reached my breaking point. What's happening here? I entered the room, my voice trembling with rage. All eyes were on me, their surprise fleeting, quickly giving way to a hint of annoyance. Nathan's face turned ashen, yet he remained silent. Lily flashed a bright smile, that triumphant, self-satisfied grin. Hey, Rachel! My mother let out a deep sigh. It felt like I had just barged into a crucial conversation. I shot a glare at Nathan, my throat burning with fury. Do you have something to share with me? He averted his eyes, fixating on the floor. Stop making excuses. Absolutely no denial. The ground beneath me seemed to be breaking apart. Are you in love with her? My voice cut like ice. Nathan kept his gaze down, but after a moment of silence, he gave a nod. With just a single nod, everything I once believed came crashing down. Lily's hand rested on Nathan's arm, a quiet assertion of her presence. You should have seen this coming, Rachel, she declared, her eyes sparkling with victory. A man truly deserves a genuine family, a genuine spouse. All the emotions within me vanished. Say goodbye to pain. Enough with the anger. Simply void. I walked away, not saying a single word more. That night, I returned home and quietly packed my things. A single note was left on the kitchen counter. No tears, no begging, no debates. Only a handful of straightforward words. Submit the divorce papers, and my lawyer will reach out to you soon. And just like that, this chapter of my life comes to a close. I turned and left, not glancing back. The divorce happened quickly and without warmth. We divide everything in accordance with the law. Skip the fights and avoid the drawn-out drama. Nathan and Lily achieved their desires. Guess what I got? Exactly what I was looking for. Embrace freedom. Initially, the emptiness consumed me completely. I lost a marriage, a family, and a significant part of my life. As the days went by, I began to see. I realized I hadn't truly lost anything at all. Nathan was never meant to be in my life. I never felt the love from my family. Now is the moment for me to start over, and I refuse to spend another day unaware of that truth. I've just relocated to a new city, a place free from old memories, devoid of pitying looks, and absent of whispered gossip. I dove headfirst into work, immersed myself in reading, got active, and explored activities I had never had the opportunity to try before. One day, I ran into a man at the grocery store. Apologies. His voice resonated with warmth and depth as he rushed to grab the milk cartons I had just dropped. I glanced up, and for the first time in months, a genuine smile broke across my face. Meet Daniel. We kick things off with a cup of coffee, followed by a dinner. Next, we dive into endless conversations. Daniel was truly one of a kind. He took his time. He never pushed me to open up about my past. He was right there. They listened when I wanted to share, and stayed quiet when I craved some distance. I prepared myself for disappointment when I revealed to him that I couldn't have children. He took my hand, his gaze warm and inviting. Hey, Rachel, I absolutely adore you. It's not about what you can or can't do. If we decide to have children, we can choose to adopt. If not, that's totally fine too. I need you right here with me. I couldn't hold it in any longer and burst into tears right then and there. A year later, we tied the knot in an intimate ceremony at City Hall. Without parents, there's no Lily, only our dearest friends, and a man who genuinely cherished me for my true self. We created a joyful, uncomplicated life together. I never imagined I could love someone so fully. Then, in an instant, everything transformed. I began waking up every morning feeling completely drained, dizzy, and heavier than ever before. I believed I was simply overwhelmed with work. Then, Daniel joked, half seriously, "What if you're pregnant?" I couldn't help but laugh. That was just impossible. Suddenly, an odd sensation stopped me in my tracks. A week later, I found myself in a doctor's office, gripping a positive pregnancy test in my trembling hands. The doctor looked at me with a warm smile and said, "Congratulations, Rachel." "Congratulations, you're expecting a baby." I shed tears. For years, I lived under the weight of the belief that I couldn't have children, convinced I was a broken woman, just as my mother had once labeled me. Yet life always finds a way to surprise us. After 9 long months, I finally cradled my baby boy in my arms. A vibrant little boy, sporting Daniel's eyes and my dark hair. We named him Ethan, the most incredible gift life has ever given me. 3 years later, my life had transformed entirely. I had an amazing husband, a fantastic son, and a true family. Not the one I was born into, but the one I chose for myself. I stopped dwelling on the past. Nathan, Lily, my parents, let's dive in. Fate had its own plans for bringing them back into my life. Don't hurt me. But to allow me to see their downfall? That evening, Daniel had just scored a promotion, and we were ready to celebrate with a dinner at an upscale restaurant right in the heart of the city. As I sipped my wine, my gaze swept over the dimly lit corner of the restaurant. In that moment, I was completely frozen. There she was, bathed in the warm glow of golden lights. Lily. She leaned in close to a man I didn't recognize, her hands gliding over his arm in an intimate gesture. That guy was definitely not Nathan. They were completely out in the open. Flirtatious glances, sweet smiles, and what comes next? A kiss. Smack dab in the heart of the restaurant. Daniel picked up on my shift in mood and leaned in closer. "What's going on, love?" I chose not to respond. I raised my phone and snapped a few pictures, each shot capturing her betrayal flawlessly. As the stranger walked away, Lily stayed at the table, pulling out her phone with a triumphant grin. For some reason, I found myself tapping on Nathan's social media profile. A picture of him and Lily popped up right at the top of his page. A stunning family portrait captures Nathan cradling Lily and Emma, accompanied by the heartfelt caption, "A complete life with the ones I loved the most." That's absolutely absurd. I didn't do anything wrong at that moment. I just saved the pictures into a secure folder and continued to enjoy my evening. But deep down, I knew. Someday I will need them. A week later, I bumped into them. While I was at the park with Ethan, I noticed my parents along with Lily, Nathan, and Emma on the other side of the playground. My mother was the very first to lay eyes on me. She stood completely still, her gaze fixed intently on Ethan. A grandson she never knew was out there. Lily was the one who shattered the silence first. "Well, well, well, look who we have here. Hey, Rachel." Her voice oozed with sarcasm. "Looks like you finally welcomed a little one into your life. It seems like modern science played a role in this, right?" I smiled confidently as I pulled out my phone and opened the folder. Absolutely, Lily. Science is nothing short of incredible. But guess what? There's something even more captivating. I tapped my screen, and there it was. Photos of Lily wrapped around a stranger at the restaurant. In an instant, her smile disappeared. "Where did you find that?" Her voice cut through the air with precision. Her face went pale. Nathan scowled, grabbing the phone from my hand. As he gazed at the pictures, confusion morphed into anger and then erupted into sheer shock. "Lily, what on earth is this?" Lily stumbled over her words, searching for answers. I never gave her the opportunity. "Oh, I'm just getting started," I said with a calm demeanor. pulling out a thick envelope. Have you ever thought about how Lily became pregnant so effortlessly? Nathan tensed up. I've gone. What do you mean? I smirked and tossed the documents onto the bench beside us. Results from the MS DNA test. I locked eyes with Nathan. Did you honestly believe she was your daughter? The test clearly indicates something different. Nathan's world came crashing down before his eyes. He faced Lily, but she could only bite her lip, unable to find a single word of defense. Absolutely not. This can't be happening. His voice broke. I folded my arms, keeping a close eye on him, the man who turned his back on me. Who abandoned me for his so-called perfect family? As everything fell apart right in front of him, Nathan walked away from Lily without hesitation. He turned his back on her, denying any recognition of Emma as his child. Feeling out of options, Lily decided to move back in with my parents. But this time, she had lost her status as their golden child. The parents who once showered her with praise now only glared at her with disapproval. It wasn't out of concern for me. They looked down on Lily's failure. What about me? I left without a hint of remorse. They made a mistake by casting me aside. I've never been the kind to chase after their love. I embraced a fresh start, surrounded by a genuine family. What about them? What remained was nothing but regret. I really believed that after all that's happened, they would just let me be. Yet, those who once discarded me returned, pleading for another opportunity. It all kicked off on a serene Saturday morning. As I whipped up breakfast for Daniel and Ethan, the joyful sound of my son's laughter echoed through our warm, cozy kitchen. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I could tell exactly who was on the other side without even glancing at the peephole. I swung the door open, and there they stood. My dad, my mom, and Lily, alongside Emma. My mother was the first to speak, her eyes brimming with tears. Yet, I felt absolutely nothing. Hey, Rachel, can we take a moment? Her voice quivered. I stood there with my arms crossed, locking my gaze on them. What's on your mind? I asked, standing firm and not inviting them in. My father cleared his throat as if he was unaccustomed to humbling himself in front of me. We made mistakes, my father said, his voice steady. Could we meet Ethan? My heart froze over. They didn't come for me. They came for my son. My mother blinked, her voice quivering with emotion. We just want to be the best grandparents for our grandson. Lily stood quietly behind them, not saying a word. She had shed the arrogance that once defined her. As our eyes locked, I caught a glimpse of the regret swirling in hers. Yet, it made no difference. I looked at them with a steady gaze and said, You gave up your right to be his grandparents a long time ago. My mother was completely taken aback. Rachel, you can't treat your parents like this, she exclaimed, her voice trembling with emotion. I released a chilling laugh. What about how you treated me? I demanded, my voice cutting through the air. You discarded me like trash, labeling me as useless and an empty shell. Now that you see I have a happy family and a child, you come back demanding the right to be grandparents? Absolutely not. My mother burst into tears while my father stood there speechless and motionless. Lily finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Rachel, I truly apologize. I gazed at her, coming to a realization. For the first time, I found myself completely speechless. That night, I opened up to Daniel completely. He wasn't surprised at all. He just placed his hand over mine, his eyes brimming with understanding. You definitely made the right choice. I let out a sigh as I glanced at Ethan, the son I once believed I could never have. I whispered, They never really wanted me. They just wanted what I possess. Daniel gripped my hand tightly. He stated that family isn't defined by blood. Family is everything. It's a decision you can make. We picked one another. I smiled, feeling more uplifted than I had in years. I finally emerged from the shadows of my past. This time, I'm moving forward without a glance back. Rachel's story goes beyond betrayal and family wounds. It's all about taking back her power. She discovered that family goes beyond bloodlines. It's about the people who choose to love and respect one another. They once tossed her aside, left her behind, and only came back when she found her joy. They were no longer part of her life. Forgiveness isn't something you have to do, and ending toxic relationships is absolutely okay. True happiness often lies in stepping away from what no longer serves you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Rachel's story. Have you ever gone through something like this? Or do you see family and betrayal in a different light? We want to hear from you. Share your thoughts below, and make sure to follow the channel for more heartfelt and impactful stories about family life.